It is time now for the Wiltfong Whiparound with our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. He is working the phones as we speak. It's been a busy time for you right now. Let's start with the big story of the day. Elijah Rushing, Oregon, Arizona, Tennessee, and Notre Dame are the finalists here. What will he bring to the program he chooses?
Well, he's the prototype at the position, right? He's 6'6", 250 pounds with that first step quickness, that pops. He can bend, change direction. And you see some of the relentless play on film, the 11.5 sacks, over 50 quarterback hurries as a junior. And you think about the upside physically with his massive frame, what he can mature into. He's a special talent, easy to see why he's so coveted by these programs here down the stretch.
Steve, speaking of upcoming commitments, four-star linebacker and former USC commit Dylan Williams. He's a top 30 linebacker in this 2024 class. He's hinting that he plans to commit maybe this Friday. Another Oregon target, four-star linebacker Kamar Matudi, plans to announce his college decision on July 10th. Who are the programs that you are monitoring closely to land these two linebackers?
We're looking at July 11th for Kamar Matudi as these dates move around right now. But I like where Oregon stands with both of them. Let's start with Dylan Williams. I think early in the month of June, Michigan State had the momentum coming out of an official visit to East Lansing, the opportunity to play for Mel Tucker and that coaching staff, an exciting one. And Michigan State definitely in the thick of it as his decision date approaches fastly. But I think Oregon, the official visit the weekend of June 23rd, the program on the rise, the opportunity to play for several defensive-minded coaches with a major track record has put the Ducks in great position. And same goes with Kamar Matudi. He's also got a keen eye on Michigan State, Utah, Washington also received official visits. But I think Oregon's had the momentum for quite some time with Kamar Matudi, and they've been able to take on all challengers. I like where they stand with each of these young men going into their upcoming college decisions.
All right, commitment season continues with four-star offensive lineman William Satterwhite. He tweeted his plans to announce his commitment on Friday. It's between Clemson and Tennessee for the number 11 prospect in Ohio. So this is an easy one. Which orange is he wearing in 2024?
Yeah, Emily, a lot of young men trying to make their decisions before their senior fall camp starts. William Satterwhite, one of them. And I like where Tennessee stands right now. I think, talking to him after his official visit there, everything from the academics to the effort the new staff is putting into changing the program, his words just shows what everyone there wants to be great. And then he also sees an opportunity to play early at Tennessee, help a program that's really on the rise, one that won 11 games last year. They have the number 12 recruiting class in the country right now. They're trying for a second straight top 10 class. I think William Satterwhite, when he announces his commitment, gets the Vols back into that territory.
And Steve, a lot of commitments, which means a lot of crystal ball predictions. You and Evan Flood of Badger 24/7 recently put one in for Darion Dupree to end up with the Wisconsin Badgers. How confident are you in that pick?
Feel great about that prediction. If Wisconsin could draft recruits for their class, Darion Dupree would be one of their first picks as soon as they made the transition from Cincinnati to Wisconsin. He was one of the first prospects that they targeted. They got him to Madison a couple times, and I think it's really going to pay off for them. This is a guy that they already have Gideon Atuka committed. He's that physical, ram it up the middle type cat. And then Darion Dupree, he's your every down back that can catch the football, run between the tackles, be dynamic on the perimeter. He's also physical with the ball in his hands. And you look at Wisconsin, their recruiting class right now is highlighted by one of the best offensive line hauls in the Big Ten. Now they want to go out and get some running backs. And this is traditional Wisconsin recruiting that we're used to, except now they're going to be playing in Phil Longo's offense. And running backs are excited about that too. What he was able to do at North Carolina with getting running backs drafted early in the draft. That the offense, that scheme to be able to have space to run, I think is exciting for Darion Dupree. And I think it'll be Wisconsin over Michigan State, Missouri, Illinois, and some of the others he strongly considered.
And based on bringing in Phil Longo, it looks like Wisconsin will be throwing the ball a little bit more, but their recruiting might say otherwise. A nice, well-rounded offense. Let's turn back time. Back in 2022, you'll remember Georgia broke a record for the most defenders selected in the first round of the NFL draft with 5. So we know that they are great at finding talent. But when it comes to the linebacker position in particular, I mean, during this cycle, they already missed out on Sammy Brown, but are still in it for 3 top 247 backers. So what's the latest with Georgia's pursuit of this position, Steve?
Well, love where they stand with Christopher Jones out of Fairfax, Virginia. He's been to campus a couple times. His official visit blew him away. I think that they are clearly the team to beat as they battle Michigan State, among others for him. Justin Williams is an interesting one, 5-star recruit out of the Lone Star State, just physically gifted, can really run, just a dynamic second-level defender. Oregon has been a program that I had pegged as the one to beat going back to the fall. But Georgia is a program that's really made a run at Oregon, made it interesting, and I could certainly see him playing his college football in Athens. His teammate, Joseph Jonah Ajanye, is announcing his college commitment in about 2 hours, and I think that Georgia fans are going to want to hover around Dogs 247 for that prize defensive lineman. And I think they're in the thick of it for Justin Williams moving forward. And then you have Chris Cole, also out of the state of Virginia, who Georgia's been on for a long time. I think they've been one of the schools to watch alongside Miami. But now you have Alabama making a move. He made a visit there early summer, late spring. He enjoyed his time out at USC. Could take an official to Notre Dame, and then another program that's made a big move because of a unofficial in the spring, and then his official visit is local Virginia Tech. So don't sleep on the Hokies. Brian Doan has a great story on Chris Cole's recruitment right now on his 24/7 Sports profile, where you can see him talking about his top schools. But Georgia, they got a chance to land all 3 of these linebackers, and they may need them because they're trying to hang on to DeMarcus Riddick, with Alabama and Auburn picking up steam with him, longtime Georgia commit. That's more likely to end up with the Tide or the Tigers. I'd probably give the edge to the Tide right now. He's making his final decision at the end of July as well.
Let's stay in the SEC, Steve, and talk a little bit about the Texas A&M Aggies. They're on a nice little hot streak on the recruiting trail. They just landed 5-star wide receiver Cameron Coleman earlier this week. They went into the state of Alabama to get him. How did Jimbo Fisher manage to pull this one off, and who else could be in the boat to possibly join Cam Coleman there in College Station?
Yeah, well, I don't think that Coleman had a better relationship with any position coach than Damian Craig over there at Texas A&M. So I think it started with the relationship component, then the hiring of Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator, also very exciting. I think he sees Texas A&M as a program on the rise. Talking to him, he said they played a lot of freshmen last year. He's seen what Jimbo Fisher has done over the course of his career, including a top 5 football team at Texas A&M. He thinks this is a program that's going to compete for national championships with the way that they've recruited recently. And he's got family in the area, so he's not going to be alone in College Station. So Texas A&M, they move into the top 10 of our rankings. They're up to number 9. They have one of the best receiver classes in the country. They're in on some 5-stars moving forward. You're talking about Colin Simmons, the number 1 edge rusher in the state out of Duncanville. He's expected at the pool party at the end of the month. Texas A&M hasn't been talked about much in this recruitment. It's been more around Texas and LSU, with places like Miami also in the mix. But Texas A&M looking to make a run at Colin Simmons, 5-star defensive lineman David Stone. He's been to A&M several times. He's someone that I wouldn't be surprised if he popped up at the pool party as well, as they battle Oklahoma, Miami, Florida, among others for him. Terry Bussey's our number 1 ranked athlete in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. He recently put out his top schools. Texas A&M's always been at or near the top of the list for Terry Bussey. 5-star receiver Ryan Wingo is going to be at that pool party. They're in the lead group for 5-star defensive lineman Dominic McKinley. On the short list for guys like Bennett Warren, Nigel Smith from in-state, and then coveted linebacker Tylen Singleton, who's been there several times, including an official in June. So a lot of runway out there still for A&M to continue rising up our rankings after this quick rise to our top 10, with most of their work coming this summer.
Man, pool party. I was listening to that whole spiel, a lot of great information, but I got excited when you said pool party. I'm sure that's going to be a fun. What?
Can you picture Jimbo Fisher at that pool party with like one of those duck rings around his waist in the water with some sunscreen?
Maybe some floaties. Maybe some floaties too. Yeah, the really thick sunscreen on his nose. Yeah, sounds like quite the bash. Excited to see. Maybe some photos will come out of that. Steve, we got a lot of viewer questions in here for you. Some people are taking advantage of your time here and want to get some more intel. So, and yeah, before we answer them, a reminder, hit that like button. I think about 20% of the people watching right now have hit it. That is just not good enough. We got this here.
Good.
No, we can do better. We got it. All right, Jason asking, Steve, what is the latest on running back Braylon Russell?
So he's going to announce his college decision with us, hopefully here on July 14th. We got that working on the back end, our producer, Aaron Grisham. But Arkansas, Baylor, South Carolina, Tennessee all got official visits. I think that last trip to Tennessee was an exciting one. South Carolina certainly was one that impressed, and you never rule out Arkansas with the way they're recruiting right now. They have a sneaky good receiver class. I love their quarterback committed. If they could add Braylon Russell to that offensive fold, they got a chance to have some serious firepower on that side of the ball moving forward. But I could see it going a few different ways right now. Danny West has Arkansas on the crystal ball, but I know Tennessee made a big impression on him when he was there a couple weekends ago.
All right, I got a question here. I'm going to need some help from Blair. This is from Tyler. Any news on Preston Tauma? How'd I do?
Yeah, Taumua. Taumua, he's a big offensive lineman from the state of Hawaii, the #1 rated prospect in the Aloha State. I have it to Oregon. I've been hearing a lot of Nebraska buzz, though. It sounds like that battle is going toe-to-toe between those two programs. He wants to make a decision on July 16th. It does sound like he has narrowed it down to those two schools. And it's an interesting battle, right? It's either Dan Lanning and that offensive line coaching staff led by Coach Terry, or you go out to Nebraska, which you took a midweek visit to Lincoln during the month of June. It's a really tight battle right now between those two programs for Preston Taumua.
Nebraska, number 15 class in the land. Oregon, number 8 right now.
Whew, some firepower there. Question here from Blake. Steve, where does Oregon stand with Justin Williams? He asks, is Georgia the favorite or is Oregon right there in it?
Yeah, my crystal ball is on Oregon. I certainly still really like their position. That's a prediction I've had since last fall, I believe. But he's made a couple visits to Athens. Georgia has at the very least pulled right behind him, if not even. There's some people that spent time with him on his official visit to Athens that think he's ultimately going to end up with the two-time defending national champ. So Oregon's got their hands full with Justin Williams here. His teammate Joseph Jonah-Ajonye is announcing his commitment at 6 p.m. Central. I like where Georgia stands there. So Georgia's certainly trending up, but Oregon still way in that one. I wouldn't throw in the towel just yet.
All right. JBHH asks, I have a question about Ryan Wingo. Where do things stand with him?
Man, my man missed last Monday's episode.
I know.
But we'll get him up to speed here. We like Texas right now. Took his official visit there in June. The third weekend of June, and I think they made a big move, got to spend time with Xavier Worthy, Arch Manning, loves Coach Sarkisian's track record with offense, receivers, and receivers development. I think that they have set the tone going into the summer. We say he's going to be at A&M this summer. He's going to be at Tennessee this summer. Tennessee's led at one point in this recruitment, so maybe they get it back. Missouri is rising. I think they're in the 2-hole right now. And then you got Miami. Miami's very much in the thick of it for Ryan Wingo. So there's still a lot to be settled in the sweepstakes for the 5-star pass catcher.
A lot of Tennessee fans are in the chat right now waiting to see if they land Elijah Rushing. Not happy about your report on Ryan Wingo, so maybe we can turn it around here. Asking, where is this question here? From Steve saying, Steve to Steve, Mike Matthews, is he a Vol?
I think there's a great chance that he's a Vol. He's been to Tennessee several times. His parents love it in Knoxville. They love the staff. They love the offense. They love the culture that Coach Heupel and company have put together in that program. It's one on the rise. I think it's one that's been well positioned throughout his recruitment. USC's given him a lot to think about. They always have a good time at Clemson. Georgia's tried to make a late move here. But I don't have a prediction in. I certainly could see him wearing the checkered orange and playing inside Neyland Stadium.
All right. Vol fans, much happier about that. I'm seeing a lot more orange emojis here in the chat. Hayden wants to know how we feeling about Aiden Breland. Hitting highlights today.
Yeah, I think that, last time we talked, I mentioned that I thought Georgia and Oregon were best positioned there. I know A&M is certainly battling. They got an official visit the first weekend of June. Miami, I feel like they had momentum. Then I was hearing less of them, but now I'm hearing Miami's way in that one again too. So I'm not ready to call it. Greg Biggins is the man on Aiden Breland, the #2 defensive lineman, #1 player in California from Mater Dei High. He's the guy to follow on Aiden Breland. But I think that those schools I mentioned there are all in the thick of it, and Miami's one that seems to be right there in the middle of it again when I didn't mention them the last time.
Got a question from, I assume, a Buckeye asking, will Ohio State end with the #1 recruiting class? They've made quite the push recently.
Well, they're in it. They have a chance. They need some things to happen. They need Georgia to lose DeMarcus Riddick, which I think will happen. Then they need to beat Georgia for KJ Bolden. They need to go on the 5-star run here with some of the other guys out there. They're in it for Kingston, the linebacker from California. Edric Houston's a guy that we have crystal ball to Ohio State right now out of Buford, KJ Bolden's teammate. Can they land Dylan Stewart as they battle South Carolina for him? 5-star edge rusher from Washington, D.C. The crystal ball is on Ohio State for him, but there are a lot of people that think he'll end up at South Carolina. He's going to visit the Gamecocks again at the end of July. Brandon Baker's a 5-star offensive tackle. They're on the short list for Kobe Black's a 5-star corner. Can they overcome Texas for him? Gerby Lambert, Aaron Scott. They're in on some big time names, but they also need Georgia to kind of trip up a little bit and lose some guys to get to that #1 spot. But I do think it's safe to say that Ohio State's going to sign a special class. Just how good will it be? Time will still tell.
#2 is still a fine position. Yeah, there's a lot of things that have to happen in order for that to happen. Steve, thank you for answering some of these questions as we await to get connected here with Elijah Rushing. Got a couple more for you here. I know everybody's very excited to find out where he lands, hoping to get him connected soon. But we got another question here. Where is Eddie Pierre Lewis headed? Or Louis? You know where he's headed?
So, no, he's one of the most he's a very coveted interior guy from Tampa. I see that we have some 24/7 Sports crystal ball action for UCF for him right now from Stephen Leonard, our insider there. I know this is a guy that Oregon coveted at one point, Alabama and Oklahoma there as well. But UCF, they're kind of on a run right now, right? They got 10 commits now, or it's 10 commits, maybe another big one here in about 35 minutes. But Kylan Fox, Walt Claire Flynn, Stacey Gage, Quay Birdsong highlighting that class right now. And then the Jacob Good kid out of Georgia is the guy that's announcing his college commitment here very soon. And we like where UCF stands with him out of Langston Hughes. So I could see UCF landing both of these young men.
CW wants to know, where will KJ Bolden go? We are rolling through all the top prospects today.
Absolutely. This is fun. KJ Bolden, crystal balls on Georgia. I think that ultimately that's where he'll land, but not sleeping on Ohio State. That official visit to Columbus, the 3rd weekend of June, skyrocketed them. And they were already probably #2 coming into that visit. He'd been to Columbus a couple times during the fall, has really clicked with their staff. Great relationship with Perry Eliano, who he's related to, the safeties coach there. And the family likes what Ohio State stands for on and off the field. But Georgia is the program that I have predicted, and no one's told me to bail on that just yet. I do know that there were people that spent time with him at Ohio State the 3rd weekend of June that thought that he would ultimately end up at Ohio State. So as we talked about the race for #1, KJ Bolden's a pivotal recruit in that. And if Ohio State can pull that off, it certainly helps their chances of ultimately overcoming Georgia.
Steve, we also have a question from Anthony. He wants to know about running back Nate Frazier. He took official visits to Alabama and Oregon, just got back from that Bama trip at the end of June. What's the latest on the talented running back from Mater Dei?
Yeah, our colleague Greg Biggins and I were talking Nate Frazier before the show. I think Georgia's the one to beat for him. I think that they blew him away during an unofficial visit this spring, summer. He's going to be back for an official visit during the season. I just like the way it's setting up for the Bulldogs there. But that official visit to Alabama, Biggins mentioned, was one that he loved. And I know he had a great time at Oregon too, and could see himself playing for the Ducks. But if you're asking me who I like today for Nate Frazier, I'd tell you it's Georgia.
Once again, we are awaiting the news on where Elijah Rushing will be playing his college ball. In the meantime, we are answering your viewer questions. So if you have any, drop them in the chat. Again, the only way you can access the chat, which is a lot of fun today. Well, yes, like the video, but also the only way you can be a part of it is if you subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. You make sure you want to do that. This is a rare occasion. We just get to ask whatever questions we want to Steve Wiltfong. We get some answers, and I'm learning a lot. We got another question here from Eli Cruz. What are the chances that Texas A&M can flip Xavier Atkins?
I don't have that information.
See, I told you we could ask anything, but it's not quite flip season yet. We've got spatula season, which is going to come a little bit later in the cycle. But as of right now, it seems to be mainly commitment season, and then we'll get to the flips a little bit later. What do you know about LJ McCray and who leads in his commitment?
Yeah, so LJ McCray, he wants to see teams play football this fall. He took a lot of visits. I think that the teams with the most smoke around them right now are Florida and Georgia. I think that with Georgia, Trey Scott, the track record on defense, Coach Kirby Smart, and everybody there has made a big impression. But he spent a lot of time in Gainesville, has really clicked with that staff. Coach Anderson, the new DC, Coach Chaos, the defensive line coach, and his track record. I think that Florida's done a fantastic job there. Obviously, Miami is trying. Auburn is in the mix. But he's going to watch these teams play this fall and continue through his process of gathering information. His dad was a terrific high school coach in the state of Florida, then coached at his alma mater, Bethune-Cookman, for a long time. So they know they have a plan for this process. And so they're going to see it through, watch these teams play this fall, continue to communicate with these coaching staffs. He's got an official visit set up for Florida State as well. So the Seminoles are in the mix for him. But Florida and Georgia are the two programs that I've heard the most about as it stands right now.